Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're tackling a big one. The third and final season of Netflix's Squid Game. Just massive.
Absolutely. And that finale definitely sparked a lot of conversation.
It really did. We've pulled together some great sources, interviews with the creator Hwang Dong-hyuk from The Hollywood Reporter. We've got reviews from NPR and Slate, plus some interesting bits from Forbes about what might come next.
Yeah, good mix.
So our mission today is really to unpack what the creator actually intended with that ending, the controversial parts, and look at how critics saw it, and maybe explore those hints about the franchise's future.
Trying to get to the real meaning behind it all, because that final episode, Humans Are, it really pushes you, doesn't it? Builds on everything the show's been saying.
Totally. Okay, let's start with the big one. Seong Gi-hun, player 456. What was supposed to happen to him? Because the creator talked about this, right?
He did, yeah. In that Hollywood Reporter piece, Hwang Dong-hyuk mentioned his first thought, kind of a vague idea, was that Gi-hun would survive.
Survive. And then what?
Survive, leave the game, go to America, see his daughter, maybe even spot the American recruiter over there. A completely different vibe.
Wow. Okay, so that's vastly different from the gut punch we actually got.
Yeah.
What changed his mind?
Well, this is where it gets really interesting. He said, as he was developing the story, he was looking at the world around him and felt like things were heading for the worst, was his phrase. That observation really shifted his thinking about Gi-hun.
So it became less about personal resolution for Gi-hun and more about a message.
Exactly. He decided Gi-hun's death could be a really powerful and impactful message for the audience. A symbol, almost.
A symbol of what, specifically? Sacrifice.
Yes. He wanted it to represent the sacrifices our generation, the current generation, might need to make for the next one for a better future.
Okay, that's heavy. What kind of sacrifices are we talking about? Like giving up ambition?
Pretty much. Things we tend to cling to, right? Like endless economic growth, that constant need for competition, greed. He called it a necessary decision of sacrifice.
To stop things from getting irrevocable, I think he said.
That's the word he used, yeah. To prevent an irrevocable decline. It's a dark message, but a profound one about what real change might cost.
It really is. And that idea connects directly to his final words, doesn't it? That unfinished sentence, humans are. We remember from season 1, he said, we are not horses, we are humans. So why leave the thought hanging at the very end?
Well, Hwang was very clear about this. He explicitly said he didn't want to finish it himself.
He wanted us to fill in the blank.
Exactly. He wanted to invite you, the audience, to really think about it. What are we? Because people are complicated, right? We can be loving, incredibly selfless.
And also capable of terrible things. Extreme selfishness, like the game itself shows.
Precisely. So ultimately, he suggests it's Gi-hun's actions, his final sacrifice, that show what humans should strive to be, maybe more than any words could. It makes you internalize it.
It forces you to grapple with it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly, but stick with these powerful moments. The L.A. recruiter scene. Cate Blanchett.
Yeah, quite the cameo.
Huge surprise. And I think everyone, myself included, immediately thought, okay, American spinoff confirmed. Especially with those David Fincher rumors flying around.
Right. Seems obvious. But Hwang actually pushed back on that interpretation in The Hollywood Reporter.
Oh.
What did he say? He said he didn't put that scene in just to deliberately leave room for further stories, or specifically tee up an American version.
So, what was the point then, if not a setup?
His intention, he explained, was actually much deeper. It was to show how incredibly strong and pervasive the system is, the system of, quote, limitless competition and elite capitalism.
Ah, okay. So even if one game master or one location is taken down,
the whole structure is so hard to dismantle, it just repeats itself. It pops up somewhere else, like LA. It hammers home that changing things needs like continued efforts and strong will. It's not easy.
That definitely lands differently than just coming soon, Squid Game USA.
Yeah, it's bleaker, more systemic.
And casting Cate Blanchett for literally one line. Why her?
He had specific reasons. He wanted a woman, for contrast with Gong Yu's character, the Korean recruiter, and he needed someone with immense presence.
For sure.
For such a short scene, you need an actor who can just dominate the screen with, like, a look. He said he was a longtime fan and knew she had that charisma, could instantly grab your attention with a single stare.
Yeah, mission accomplished on that front, definitely. Okay, so we understand the creator's intentions, these heavy themes. How did that translate into the actual finale plot points? It was brutal.
It really was. The final game itself, the Sky Squid Game, they called it. Players on those pillars pushing each other off, visually stunning, but horrifying.
And that final standoff, Gi-hun, the baby's biological father, player 333, and the baby itself, now player 222's child, actually in the game.
Yeah.
That was rough.
Gut-wrenching. Gi-hun trying desperately to protect the baby. The fight, player 333 falling. But then the detail that neither of them hit the timer button first.
Right. So 333's death didn't technically count towards ending the game.
Exactly. Which forces Gi-hun's hand, his final act, that tearful sacrifice, jumping after hitting the button. That's where his actions really speak.
And deliver that final line. We are not horses. We are humans. Humans are. It hangs there as he falls. His action is the answer. In a way, it embodies that societal sacrifice Hwang was talking about.
It becomes the ultimate statement. And it wasn't just Gi-hun's fate that was bleak. Look at the other characters. Kang No-woo, the North Korean staff member, the sharpshooter.
Yeah, her story was tragic. She defects, tries to help another player save his sick daughter because she lost her own child.
Right, that maternal connection motivates her. But then the crushing discovery, her own daughter's file says deceased after everything.
Devastating. She tries to end her own life, then barely escapes the island as it blows up. And even 6 months later, she's still searching, hoping her daughter might be in China. Just lingering pain.
No easy answers there. And Hwang Jun-ho, the detective, his whole quest.
He finally finds the island, confronts his brother, the front man. But again, he can't bring himself to shoot him.
Echoes of season 1. And he escapes the explosion too, but then 6 months later, he's out of a job and suddenly the baby just appears on his table with all the prize money.
What does that even mean? It's so ambiguous. Like, is he now responsible? Is it a trap? Very unsettling.
It really makes you question what winning or surviving even looks like in this world, and even the slightly more positive notes are tinged with sadness.
You mean Sabios's brother?
Yeah, connecting back to season 1, we see him finally reunite with his mother, which, given support, made possible. That's good, but
Gi-hun's own daughter.
She gets visited by the front man in L.A. He tells her that her dad, calling him a friend, is dead. And he gives her Gi-hun's bloody tracksuit and the leftover money from the first games.
Oh, man. That's cold. Just brutal loose ends. Not exactly uplifting stuff.
Definitely not. Which leads us nicely into the critical reception. How did reviewers handle this bleakness? Let's start with NTR.
Right. NPR called the season bleaker than ever, which, yeah, sounds about right. But they also found it too predictable.
Predictable. Interesting.
Yeah. They felt that while the visuals were still striking, and the whole concept of the VIPs was still, bonkers, the fact that we'd seen the structure before kind of lessened the impact.
Familiarity breeding contempt, almost.
Sort of. They mentioned a heavy hand with characterizations, some plot twists feeling obvious, and even the VIP performances being maybe overwrought.
Okay.
But they did give credit where it was due, saluting Hwang for that pointed critique of capitalism.
Fair enough. What about Slate? Their take was a bit different, wasn't it?
Yeah, Slate had this great headline question. Did Squid Game stick the landing? And their answer was basically, well, kinda.
Ah, okay. Nuanced.
They saw Gi-hun going back into the games as this attempt to dismantle it from the inside, an attempt that ultimately fails.
Reinforcing that theme of helplessness against the system.
Exactly. And it links back to him having lost the will to live until the baby gave him that spark of hope again. But here's the really cutting part of Slate's review. They basically argued that everything Gi-hun did, all his sacrifices, losing his daughter, his life, it was all ultimately a waste.
Wow, that's harsh.
Super harsh. They said he was just cutting a singular head off the Hydra, only for 2 more to grow in its place. The system wins.
Ooh.
And then Slate dropped this final bomb, this really meta point. They highlighted how Netflix, the platform airing this critique of capitalism, responded by launching Squid Game-themed reality shows and experiences for tourists.
Oh, the irony.
Right. Twisting this gruesome cautionary tale into just more money and entertainment. So Slate suggested the show's real-world impact kind of proved its own point about the system absorbing everything.
That is a fascinating and pretty cynical take, but you can see their point.
Right.
Which naturally leads us to what is next for this universe, the future.
Yeah, because the show is just too big to stop.
Yeah.
Let's talk spin-offs, those David Fincher rumors.
Right, the reports that Fincher might be developing an American Squid Game series.
And key detail. Apparently a news story set in the U.S., not just a straight remake of the Korean original.
Which sounds potentially interesting, but it's important to say Netflix hasn't confirmed anything officially.
True. And the Hollywood Reporter sources actually said the season 3 ending wasn't designed to set up more stories, quote, at this time.
So maybe the Fincher thing is just buzz. Or maybe it developed later. Hard to say. Huang himself said he's only read about it in articles.
But he's a Fincher fan.
Huge fan, apparently. Said if it happened, he'd definitely click on it immediately, so no opposition there, it seems.
Interesting. But Huang has his own ideas for continuing things, right? Even if he didn't intend the finale that way.
He does, but maybe not in the way you'd expect. He said he's not interested in continuing the story in the current time.
So, no season 4 following Jinho and the baby, or no Eel's search.
Doesn't sound like it, not from him anyway. He said if he did a spin-off, he'd want to go back. Explore the time gap between season 1 and season 2.
Like prequels or side stories.
Exactly, focusing on characters like the front man, maybe the salesman recruiter Gong Yu played, or Captain Park, and crucially,
Yes.
these stories would not feature an actual Squid Game competition. It'd be more about the backstory, the system itself, how it operates behind the scenes.
Okay, that could be really cool too. More world building.
Definitely. So where does that leave us? We have these potential paths. What's the likely outcome? Forbes had some thoughts on this.
Yeah, Forbes basically pointed out the obvious. Squid Game is still massive for Netflix.
Right.
Season 1 is their #1 show ever. Season 2 was top 5. Season 3 is bound to be huge too.
The numbers are just staggering.
Absolutely. So Forbes' conclusion is pretty straightforward. Netflix won't stop now. The money is too good.
It's a safe bet.
They'll likely push hard for that American version. Maybe Fincher directs. Maybe Huang consults.
Yeah.
But the franchise machine will keep rolling.
Which, again, ironically loops right back into the show's own critique, doesn't it? This relentless system driven by profit just keeps going.
It really does. It ties back perfectly to Kwang's message about how strong that system is, how it repeats itself. Even if Gi-hun ended his game, the larger game continues.
Those underlying forces of competition, capitalism, they just find new arenas, new players.
So, okay, wrapping this all up.
Yeah.
As you listening, think about this deep dive into Squid Game's finale. It's really powerful, maybe pessimistic commentary. Here's something to chew on.
Mm-hmm.
If that system is as strong and self-repeating as the creator suggests, what does that mean for us? What kind of personal sacrifices maybe, or shifts in how we see things, might actually be needed to change the game? Not just for ourselves, but, for the future generations he was talking about.
That's the big question the show leaves us with, isn't it? What does it take to really be human in a system like that?